Tennessee handled business in what was a virtual home game. I know it wasn't in Knoxville, but they did play in Nashville, still in the Volunteer State. Final score, Tennessee 49, Virginia 13. And it took a second here for Tennessee to kind of get into a rhythm and to get things handled. It was a gritty performance early on. I got a lot to say about this. Really quickly, though, Tennessee fans, we've had a lot of y'all join the party recently. We're so glad to have you here, so glad to have you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't yet subscribed to the channel, haven't yet been a part of this operation, jump right in. The water's fine. Make sure you're subscribed, one, and also make sure you're following me on Twitter. We're still calling it Twitter. And follow me on Instagram at JD Piquel live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern, right here on the On3 YouTube channel is the hard count. Appreciate you in advance for that. Like I was saying, for Tennessee now, it wasn't a thing where you just jumped on them right away and they were up 40-0 at half. Wasn't that kind of operation. They were up 21-3 at half, and so that was a good showing. But even so, it took a second to kind of find their rhythm. But you got to feel good about the way that you answered. Stopped on downs, have a tough drop deep, fumbled the football on a punt return. Like there were some things that just looked very week one-ish in that game. And that's okay because guess what? It is week one, and you're going to have to probably have a better performance when it comes to the second half of the season when you do play Georgia in Neyland. But even so, took care of business, responded, and I loved the grit from this team. I mean, truly, I did. The way the defense showed up, the way the pass rush showed up in the first half, I don't care that it was Virginia. I care that you took care of business against a team that you're supposed to take care of business against, and that the defense answered the call. Breaking in a new quarterback, yeah, it might take a second to totally get everything revved up, but even so, man, I thought he looked good. 21 of 30, 201 yards, 2 touchdowns. Again, could have been 22 of 30 with maybe 3 touchdowns and a few more yards there should that deep pass be caught. But it's all right. We're getting dialed in. To have some resistance in week one, and resistance is maybe even the wrong word to use because it wasn't a street fight. They still won the game 49-13. But to have some moments where you say, ooh, don't love that. Hey, we got to pick ourselves up now. Hey, it's not just going to be handed to you. You don't just get to roll the ball out there and win the game. To have some resistance, and I'll use that word for this conversation right now, have some things not go your way, have to activate the response mechanism is maybe the right word to say it. I think that's a good thing. I don't think that's a negative thing in week one to have to respond a little bit. Because if you walk into a game at Florida and you go play South Carolina, you play A&M, all 3 of those games, if you haven't been tested walking into the swamp, you haven't been tested playing South Carolina and A&M in Neyland, then I'd be maybe a little bit worried. You don't want to have that sense of urgency find you when you have someone on the other side that could actually maybe do some damage. And that's not to knock Virginia. That's not even to say what Florida's going to be. I'm just saying the roster talent going forward they're going to play against, they need to have a little bit of a sense of urgency they didn't have early on in this game, or have some execution they didn't have early on in this game. And I think this team, as a whole, this Tennessee team, I get the feeling they're going to trend pretty similar to the way last year's team did. And when I say trend, I mean the way they started the year last year for the Vols, they battled early on against Pitt. I mean, we remember that game. It was one that was back and forth. There were times where you weren't sure if Tennessee was going to win the football game. It was hard fought. And then as they went further and further along, next thing you know, you're dragging LSU and you're beating Alabama. But the team that played Pitt that day, I don't know if that same team that showed up against Pitt beats Alabama. You hear what I'm saying? So for them to be getting their sea legs right now, I think is more than fine. And if they battle with Florida, who knows what Florida's going to be. But after Florida, I think that's where you see their feet really become set. And again, we're not predicting the Florida game right now, obviously. I think they should handle business against Florida based on what we've seen so far. But after that Florida game, then you have your feet set. Then you kind of know who you are as a team. Then everything should be really firing on all cylinders. And then you can go and chase whatever you want to chase. But based on week one, that performance we saw, I get the feel that this Tennessee team may be different from last year's Tennessee team in the sense that they looked, just from the eye test, that they had a little bit more edge to them. And I'm not saying anything about last year's team in a negative sense. I'm just saying based on week one, based on one data point, I saw a team that had some swag, some confidence, some physicality. Like, they have earned the right to see themselves in some sense as the bully. And that's what I saw Tennessee be yesterday, man. There was no lack of confidence. There was no lack of bravado. And a lot of that comes from Josh Heupel. We know he's as confident and as cool, calm, and collected as they come. But I think a lot of that also comes from Joe Milton now being the leader of your football team. Joe Milton, man, gets in the end zone, little dance. Like, hey, I love that. You got to believe that you're the guy before anybody else believes you're the guy. You got to believe that you're that team before anybody else believes that you're that team. So to have that internal sense in Knoxville, I think that's a good thing. Saw guys dancing in the end zone a little bit. Saw the defense getting after it. I saw a real sense of like bad intentions in a good way in a football game. So they've earned the right to be confident. It's very early on, but I think all great teams have that sense about them. And I don't want to overproject what Tennessee's going to be. I'm just saying, in a one-game sample size, in one data point from week one, I like that they had to respond. I liked the edge I saw from them. And I thought Joe Milton looked really comfortable when it got dialed in. So as a whole, man, you love that you handle business against a team that you're supposed to handle business against. For Tennessee, man, it is on to the next. So we will continue to talk about Tennessee going forward here. So make sure you're subscribed if you're a Tennessee Volunteer fan. If you love college football, we love college football. That's another reason to subscribe to this channel. Again, live Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 11 a.m. Eastern. Don't want you to miss a minute of it. We appreciate y'all. We love y'all. We're going to keep this party rolling. We will see y'all next time. Hey y'all, thanks so much for watching. Subscribe to the channel here to make sure you don't miss an episode of The Hard Count. Also be sure to check out other videos on the On3 YouTube channel.